Welcome back. So, in this session, we'll be discussing on information flow and confinement problem. So, to begin with, we'll go with the information flow. So, we'll discuss how the information flow operates within the context of risk management. So, this information flow refers to the ongoing processing and collecting, analyzing, communicating, and taking action based on the data related to the potential risk in an organization. Ensuring the efficient information flows is the vital for the timely identification, assessment, and mitigation of risk that could potentially impact the organization objective. So, we'll first discuss upon the data collection. The first stage in the management risk is the data collection of the relevant data. Organizations draw information from both internal sources such as incident report and security logs and the external resources like industry reports and regulatory updates. This collected data often covers assess threats, vulnerabilities, existing control, and past scrutiny incidents. For example, financial institution routinely monitor transaction data to detect the fraudulent activity. Next one is risk identification. After the data collection, the next step is to analyze the information to uncover risk that may impact the organization. So this approach systematically assesses the livelihood and the potential impact of various threats and the vulnerabilities on assess operation and goals. A real-time example would be a company evaluating potential security weakness in its supply chain to prevent the cyber attacks. Next one is risk assessment. At this stage, identify risks are evaluated based on their severity, livelihood, and the potential impact. This can cause a quantitative analysis and a qualitative analysis. When they say it is a qualitative analysis, categorize risk by subjective criteria such as low, medium, or high. When you say quantitative analysis, assigning numerical values to the livelihood and the impact possibly using the financial metrics. So this assessment helps prioritize the risk and guide the level of response needed. Next one is risk treatment. Once the risks are assessed, organization develop the risk treatment plan, which may include mitigation. So the risk with new controls, transferring it to another party. Example via insurance, accepting the risk when it is deemed tolerable, and the last avoiding scenarios altogether. The aim is to reduce the risk to a manageable level, acknowledging available resources and constraints. And the next is monitoring and review. Risk management is not a set and a forget activity. Organization must continuously monitor and review their risk management practices. So this involves tracking changes in the risk environment, reassessing controls, and updating risk management strategies are needed. For an example, companies regularly review the response plan to stay prepared for a new forms of cyber threats. The next one is communication. The vital concept of effective risk management is communication. Relevant stakeholders, including the executives, staffs, partners, and regulators, must be informed about ongoing risk activity. So this include sharing the results of a risk assessment, outlining treatment plans, and ensuring everyone understand their roles and responsibilities in mitigating the risks. Next one is reporting. Organizations are responsible for reporting their risk management activities to both internal and external audiences. So this includes regular updates to management, the board of directors, and the documentation for regular compliance. The transparency in reporting that helps demonstrate the due diligence. So essential for building the trust and stakeholders. Next one is learning and improvement. To stay resilient, organization should promote a culture of continuous learning and improvement. Lessons learned from the past incidents, including both success and failures, are crucial. Analyzing the previous risk events or near misses help in refining the risk strategies, identifying the root causes, and developing more effective controls. And the next is transition to confinement problem. Having covered the information flow, now let us move on to a confinement problem. So this topic addresses how the programs and the processes are restricted to operate strictly within their authorized boundaries, minimizing the risk of unauthorized access or operations. So, introduction for this confinement problem. So, the confinement problem in the information security focuses on ensuring that programs or process that can access resources and perform operation for which they can explicit authorization. So, this concern is highlighted in the multi-user environment like enterprise operating system, where the breach could allow the unauthorized action to compromise a sensitive information or operations. And the real world context, the confinement problem in the modern computing environments, such as server shared by the multiple organization, the entity process must be isolated without proper confinement. Exploration of a single application could lead to the system-wide breaches. A notable incident of data leaks often arise from the improper isolation between the services or users. And the next one is access control mechanism. So several mechanism helps to address the confinement problem. So first one is access control list. So define who can access which resources and perform which actions. Next one is role-based access control. Assigns permission based on the new user roles, restrictions, functions accordingly. Next one is mandatory access control. We call it as MAC. Enforces system level policies that override individual users or sorry users or process discretion. A real world analogy is a Unix file permission, which only allow the designated users specifying rights to files or directories. Next one is privilege separation. So this privilege separation is the practice of segmenting systems component or the process so each runs with the minimum privileges required. For example, web browser often isolate each tab in its own process. So if one tab is compromised by malware, it can't easily affect others or the entire system. Next one is sandboxing. So this unboxing involves isolating untrusted or a potentially dangerous process in a restricted environment known as sandbox. The technique like containerization, virtualization, and application level sandboxes are widely used today. So modern smartphones, for example, runs application in a separate sandboxes to prevent malicious app from accessing personal information or other application data. Next one is code and data validation. Validating code and data ensures that only trusted and properly formatted input are processed. Methods include input validation, data sanitation, and using the digitally signed code. For instance, web server validate user input to prevent common attacks such as buffer overflow or SQL injection. So next one is secure development practices. So this secure development involves following a secure code guidelines, conducting code reviews, performing vulnerability assessment. So by embedding the security through the software development cycle, organization can reduce the risk of vulnerabilities that attackers could exploit to bypass confinement controls. Next one is monitoring and auditing. So auditing. Continuous monitoring and auditing of the systems helps to detect and address the security breaches by tracking the events and producing audit logs. By regularly analyzing the logs, organization can spot the unauthorized attempts to access resources and promptly respond to the incidents, maintaining the robust confinement. So, as a summary and the recommendations, so successful addressing of confinement problem requires the combination of technical controls, secure development process, and ongoing monitoring. Organizations that employ these strategies can protect their systems and the data from the unauthorized access and the misuse of misuse, securing the integrity and their information infrastructure. So this is the end of the confinement problem, and we shall meet you in the next unit. I think this is the end of this unit. We'll meet you in the next unit. Thank you.